Hi, I'm Maureen Bisognano, and I wish I was there with you in person today to thank you all for everything that you're doing every day. These small acts of kindness and humanity are making such a difference in healthcare worldwide. As you might know, I'm the oldest of 9 children, a big Irish family, and we had a lot of fun together, but early on, my brother, Johnny, was diagnosed with Hodgkin's disease. And this is where I learned about kindness. This is where I learned to really think about the whole person. My brother was very sick, and I thought my job was to give him hope and encouragement. And so he'd come up to my place each week or each other day and say, I don't think I'm going to make it. And I thought I would encourage him. So I would say, no, Johnny, there's more chemotherapy, there's more radiation. And yet he really knew he wasn't going to make it. One day we were in the hospital with him in an academic medical center, and the physicians came in to make rounds, and I sat with him and held his hand. And at the end of the rounds, the physicians left, but one came back. And he walked up to the bed and he touched my brother and he said, "Johnny, what do you want?" And my brother said, "I want to go home." And the physician came over to me, he took my jacket off, and he went over and he put it on my brother, and he picked him up and he carried him to my car. What he was saying is, what you want matters more than anything else. We all recognize that your disease is near the end, and if being at home matters most to you, that's what we want to do. When I got Johnny home, I had learned a totally different way about thinking about healthcare, about caring, about kindness. And I said to my brother, "Johnny, what do you want?" And Johnny said, "I want to be 21. And his birthday, his 21st birthday, was coming up. It was on November 25th, and Johnny lived until December 1st. Those last few weeks at home were complete joy, I have to say. As much as we were in pain, his friends came over, we had lots of laughs and memories, we pulled out old pictures. It was such a different experience than being in a hospital with limited visitation and all those kind of rules. So I always think back to that physician who walked back from rounds and said, "Johnny, what do you want?" He changed my career. He changed my life and my perspective. He certainly gave joy to our family. So as I started my career in healthcare, I keep thinking back to that physician and thinking about that moment of kindness. When he came back out of his typical role and stepped into a human role, touched my brother, and touched our lives in a very different way. From there on in, I began to think about my role not only as a clinical person, but as a humanity person. And every patient I would go in and visit, I would really try and connect with them personally. A few years ago, I read Susan Edgman-Levitan's book with Michael Barry, and in the book it said, we can't only ask the patient what's the matter, we have to ask what matters to you. That reinforced everything I had been thinking. And as I began to think about this and challenge people around the world, I was amazed at the response. Monthly, we meet now people from British Columbia to Australia, from Norway to Brazil, and people come together with their stories. Not only does it make a huge difference to their patients, but it makes a huge difference to them as professionals. And that's what I read in Mangomoments. I read moments of kindness. I read moments of compassion. And I want to reach out and say thank you to each one of you. Those of you who wrote in the book, those of you who every single day reach out and touch a patient, those of you who send in stories to inspire others, and those of you who are sharing in this moment tonight about hopefully changing the culture of healthcare from science only to science and humanity. Some of the stories I've received are amazing. I got a story last week from Norway a patient in a nursing home, an elderly man who was very combative and challenging and agitated every morning. And when the staff would go in to ask him, "Are you ready to get up and get bathed and get dressed?" he would always argue with them. And one morning, the staff went in and said, "What matters to you most today?" And he said, "Today I want to wear my blue shirt." And the nursing assistant said, "Tell me about that." And he said, "This was my wife's favorite shirt. And I loved my wife. She died 2 years ago today, and today I want to celebrate our marriage, our joy, and our love." And from that day on, this man never was difficult again. He really understood that people cared about him and his family and his personal side, and it changed everything, that simple act of kindness with the nursing assistant asking, "What matters to you most today?" There are so many stories from around the world in so many languages, in so many cultures, but reading about Mango Moments inspired me in so many different ways to think about the simple ask of saying, "What matters to you today?" So I'm both grateful to you and hopefully encouraging you that every single day, ask every patient what matters to you. And what we're starting to see around the world is not only is that making a difference for patients and their families, but it's making a difference for the staff. We're seeing now teams come together in the morning and they're saying, "What matters to you? What matters to you?" And I've seen such incredibly inspiring stories when this happens. I was at a hospital recently in the United States, and a group of housekeepers got together in the morning, and they went around and asked, "What matters to you?" to each one of their team. One of the young men started crying, and someone stopped and put their hand out and said, "Tell me what's going on." And he said he was going through a difficult divorce. He had a 3-year-old child, and he was afraid he was going to lose custody. So he kept calling in sick to work so that he could go to court and fight for his son. The more he called in sick, it put his job on the line. And he was fearful that he was going to not only lose his marriage and his son, but his job. The other housekeepers came around him. They reached out and put their hands on him and they said, "We'll take care of you." They created a flexible scheduling system. And they said, "Anytime you need us, we are here. We'll move our shifts around so that you end up in a happy place with your son and employed." And I'm telling you, I was inspired to tears looking at how when people understand what matters, it's not a criticism of you calling sick too much. It's a, "How can I help you?" And that's what the world needs today. I'm so grateful for each one of you. I know in your past you've contributed in many ways, and I hope that going forward from this session this evening, that you'll continue to do so. Tell us the stories. This book is one first start, but Mango Moments need to spread around the world in every language. Thank you all so much.